Dear, oh dear, Everton are back. Welcome to Follow Everton. This is the match reaction for Everton 0, Aston Villa 4. A complete and utter disgrace. Disgusted watching that game. It was over within 25 minutes. Everton were completely outplayed and outclassed by Aston Villa side that, to be honest with you, didn't even need to get out of first gear. And the goals were kamikaze, some of the stuff that you wouldn't even expect to see at Sunday League level. I've got to be honest. The third and fourth goals were some of the worst goals that you'll ever see in Premier League fixtures. And there's so much to digest. I just want to welcome you all to the stream and the comments, and say, you know, that this is going to be a bit of a heavy one, because I haven't got a lot of positive things to say. I mean, you can come and say, let's stay positive. It's only the second game in. But for me, I've got nothing positive to say. I've got a lot of damning things to say. Overall, Everton treated that game like a friendly match, like a testimonial game. We never had any fight. We never had any spirit. Most of the time, we barely got out of we never got out of any gear. You know, we didn't even turn the engine on today. And I'm lost for words. The fact that after two seasons of relegation battles, we're now coming in for the third successive season, and it's like nothing has changed. The players look unfit. They look completely under-equipped. The manager got it completely wrong with this weird formation where he's got Garner tucked in extremely narrow and leaving Luca Dean and Aston Villa's right back Cash acres of space to just completely dictate the whole game. I just can't fathom how poor the management, how poor the players were, and how poor the manager was. I can see you all in the comments. There's over 70 of you watching straight away. I imagine there'll be hundreds of people on this stream. I do feel and see your pain in those comments. I'm just trying to get one of my colleagues to come and join. I believe it will be Andalf, so I'm just waiting for him to drop onto the stream. But we'll start with the team news. I mean, as I say, James Garner, right wing. I questioned this before kickoff. Michael Keane at centre-half again. You're waiting for the inevitable mistake. Danjuma on the bench. Calvert-Lewin started. I think we were a little bit optimistic, but of course, it didn't take long for Calvert-Lewin to get a very unfortunate injury, by all means. Smack in the face, a ball from the right wing into an area where Calvert-Lewin doesn't really have any chance of getting it. And I think it's a simple take for the keeper, but he's brave. He goes in, he gets knocked, gets a big lump on his side of his face, and they put a bit of ice on it. But really, if you have that kind of injury, you've got to put ice on it for a lengthy period of time. You can't just stick some ice on it for 5 minutes. And it wasn't even 5 minutes. It was like 5 seconds. Had the ice on it for like less than a minute, and then got told to play on. And you just knew from that moment on that Calvert-Lewin, you know, that was going to bite him back, because he never really recovered from what was a bright start, completely marred by the knock in the face. I'm just trying to get the time for the goal, because I'm not quite sure whether the goal was before the injury. So I just want to clarify that, if that's okay. Does anyone know whether he picked up that injury when it was 0-0? Just the Villa team very briefly was Watkins up front, Bailey, Diaby, McGinn, Kamara, Douglas Luiz midfield, Luca Dean, Pau Torres, Concert, Cash, and Emi Martinez in goal. Just want to clarify that, if that's okay, with the match stats that I've got here. McGinn, 18 minutes. I think Calvert-Lewin can someone confirm? I think Calvert-Lewin got the knock at 0-0, to be honest with you. But it felt like Everton started quite brightly. I think we pressed. We tried to pin on to Aston Villa and stop them playing out. And I think when we pressed and pushed right on Aston Villa, when they tried to build from deep, we were quite comfortable. We forced them to go long, and then we sweeped up and won the second balls and tried to build from there. Of course, once Calvert-Lewin got that knock, his energy, you know, he looked completely zapped. He didn't look the same player, and Aston Villa got a really early breakthrough. And I think You could say it was against the run of play. I think Everton were probably the better team overall in that first 15 minutes, but Aston Villa got that early goal. John McGinn, and I'm just trying to recall it. It's infuriating. I believe we lost the midfield battle a little bit. Aston Villa are running at our defence. Tarkowski's backing off. Michael Keane's backing off. Ashley Young doesn't engage. None of them engage. The midfield, the two are caught up the pitch. And the ball goes out to the right-hand side for Aston Villa. And it's 1v1 against Ashley Young, who's beaten far too easily. I think it was Leon Bailey on the right-hand side for Aston Villa. And James Garner's meant to be picking McGinn up. That was his man. McGinn makes a run across in front of Mike McGinn, away from John McGinn, and it's a tap in. And you know what? It's embarrassing defending. He's got to stay with the runner. Hyan. He's got to stay with the runner. And it's a simple clearance. But even then, Michael Keane not checking his shoulder, Tarkowski not checking his shoulder, Ashley Young not getting the block in. Collectively, some of the worst defending that you can expect to see. And Jan, Everton on the back foot already with 1-0, a completely avoidable goal.
Nobody tracked John McGinn. There seems to be a complete lack of situational awareness. What frustrates me. Sorry. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Fume Everton. There's nobody tracking runners. There's no taking ownership. It's more like, I don't know whether we're playing zonal marking or whether we're following men and we're just allowing them to run in, but there seems to be a complete breakdown in the tactical awareness. I mean, it's just, okay, so last week against Fulham we're playing, and there's some fantastic link-up play and running and attacking, but that's just when it's between 2 or 3 players. There's no broader situational awareness. When McGinn runs in and cuts across, okay, he's going to be slightly out of position, but Patterson's not chasing up to close him. Keane is not following up. Tarkowski's got to cover the man in because he's got a man that's coming in from the box. Okay, I understand that. And he's, maybe we cut him a break and he is more aware. But you look at that, and Keane, the wild swipe for the 4th goal. No.
Don't go off. Let's stick on top. I know you got a lot to say. Got David coming in now. Basil, my brother. David, the first goal tactically, John McGinn just completely left, isn't he? It's James Garner's man, but still, you've got enough players back to get in position. Maybe Garner Gay could get in front, stop it. Ashley Young could stop it. Keane could stop it. There's no excuse for that, is there? It's basic.
Cross got in too easily, got to the byline too easily. Michael Keane's in the position you think he should get in front. He's like a statue, and then you've got James Garner behind, who seems to be the one who's tracking him, and all of a sudden he leaves him. He just stays there, and it's a goal, and that's what you get punished for. You switching off.
Yeah. Dave, thanks for joining. Jan, you're in charge of starring. Any comments we need to come back to? I do see there's been at least 500 comments coming in. There's 200 of you watching live. All I can say, support the channel, hit like and subscribe. Even you don't like the result, of course, we don't fucking like the result, but like the stream, like the video, and hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Turn notifications on. 1-0 down. You think Everton are completely on the back foot here. Star the comments and then we'll come back to them in due course, Jan, because it throws me off when they're just on the screen.
Okay.
We're 1-0 down, and Calvert-Lewin's trudging on. He's trying to get involved, but it's a corner, I believe, down the left-hand side. Aston Villa are coming forward. Onana doesn't get a foot in. Patterson then is forced to give a corner away as a last-ditch tackle. It's a 2v1 situation, as I said before, David. I don't know whether you heard, but Garner was tucked in so narrow. Iwobi was tucked in so narrow, so Aston Villa could get their fullbacks forward and whip so many crosses in. And this is just one that led to the corner for the goal. Everton didn't go 2v2 for the corner. Aston Villa, I've got 2 versus 1. Garner doesn't know who to go with for the corner because he's got, them playing a short corner. It goes to Luca Dean, unmarked, plenty of time, plenty of space, whips a perfect ball in. And Pickford comes out, is nowhere near the ball. Yes, he takes the player out. The ball had already left Watkins. Technically, he'd already made contact, and then he's taken out after it's gone. So I don't know the laws of the game, but it's a penalty.
But on that note, seeing that, the fact that we've seen a change in the standards. I mean, one thing that frustrates me is the changes in standards of refereeing, okay, if you're going to have consistency, but when they say, oh, that had been a penalty last season, or, oh, not, like, how can you, it's the same game, broadly the same players, from one season to the next, arbitrarily have a cutoff for 2 or 3 months, and we're suddenly saying things are and aren't penalties. I'm sorry, but for me, maybe I tried to watch it on replay. Okay, yeah, of course, there's some contact there, but it looked more like legs. And it's like when there was a free kick awarded earlier on, which we didn't make anything of. But it was there was a Villa player right behind Decore, and he runs into Decore's elbow that's up here. I just can't understand how that is a free kick. Is it because there's a head injury? Sorry.
I'm just going to interrupt you with the breaking news that Everton are close to signing Che Adams for £15 million from Southampton. Someone please pass me the noose, because you look at that and you don't think someone like Che Adams is going to make an awful lot of difference. It's extremely toothless. And actually, I think the problems are at the back. I'm going to move on to David, just talk about that penalty. The keeper comes, it's in a good position, but where's the fucking defenders? And why is he not catching the ball? What is this? It's self-capitulation, and we're only 25 minutes in.
Well, it is a penalty, in my opinion. I thought it in real time. He comes out and just clatters the man. I mean, it's brainless, but you're right. Everton defenders are missing. They've gone to sleep. They're nowhere near the ball. And, Villa are there to react to everything, and that's where a lot of their chances came from, those sorts of moments where Everton defenders are in no man's land. So it's really poor, isn't it? But I just want to highlight the fact that came from the short corner. And Villa continuously played that short corner because they knew they could not deal with Everton's aerial threat. And we did not cotton on to it. Even in the second half, when we've had a half time to talk about it, they were still getting in behind through these short corners.
And then the penalty is taken, and, it's classic. Jordan Pickford gets a yellow card for time wasting. I mean, tries to put him off, dives the right way. And he's probably just a fraction too short of saving.
He went to look at the water bottle to see what direction he was going to take the penalty, but then it wasn't Ollie Watkins, was it? So he didn't have much advice off his bottle, I guess, and
he would have had 3 people written on it. It's unlucky, but it's his own fault. He's giving the penalty away with stupidity, self-inflicted. The first goal, you could say, is a decent run and a decent movement, and it's just Everton asleep. The second is capitulation. But then at that point, Jan, Calvert-Lewin pulls up, with the injury. His face is ballooned up. There's not an awful lot you can do. You understand the bigger picture here. He probably needs to go to hospital and get that looked at. You'd go to A&E if that happened, wouldn't you? Let's be honest.
I've had that exact same... Well, admittedly, I can't judge on that, but mine was worse. I mean, I nearly lost my eye. But yeah, I've had that exact same thing, break in the maxillo-orbital, wherever it is. And the fact that it's ballooning up like that after a short time suggests to me that, that's going to be a fracture or a break. He's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks at least, because you can't risk sort of running on it and making any further pressure. If that was any other player, I'd be like, oh, God, get him off. And I mean, I still say that for DCL, but the reality is, it's just Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, he's got no luck. Absolutely no luck. David, you've got, you're in the St. John's ambulance. You'd have said absolutely ice that, and that's 20 minutes. You don't play on that.
I think they iced it, didn't they?
For 30 seconds.
Yeah, for 30 seconds, and then they let him carry on, which realistically he shouldn't have carried on in the first place because he took a whack. He should have at least come off the pitch for a few minutes to be more assessed. But yeah, and then you could see his face was like bloomed up. One side of it that was deformed against the other, and it's, at that point he just has to come off. And as you say, it's Calvert-Lewin, isn't it? It's not his fault, but we look at it. It looks a calamity, this whole situation now. No one.
It's extremely unfortunate. Yeah, Jan. Just keep on
that note, Peter said, "How didn't our medical staff see that it was serious from their off?" Well, I would venture a guess and say all the chopping and changing we've had means that we got rid of all the medical staff when a certain Spanish...
No, we had people look at that, but he would have been asked to stay on. He would have wanted to stay on as well. Yeah. I can see there's hundreds of people in the comments. I do apologize. I need to structure this video because there's so many things to talk about. So I'm going through the game chronologically. We'll bring in the comments where necessary. Calvert-Lewin goes off. At that point, you're thinking, let's just slam the laptop shut or turn the TV off. There's no point watching this. There's no threat. You, as one of our regulars said before, James Garner on the right wing, Joey 11. Why is he on the right wing? You know, he doesn't know whether to come inside, doesn't know whether to stay out with Luca Dean. The defense is very deep. The midfield's very narrow. We're not stretching them. We're not getting in behind and exploiting the spaces in between the fullbacks of Aston Villa, which is where their weakness is. I mean, smash the like button for me and make sure you hit subscribe. Calvert-Lewin goes off injured. On comes Danjuma. Jan, you're thinking, poor guy, thrown in, thrust in, up front, 2-0 down, away from home, not his position. He was completely isolated for the remainder of that half, wasn't he? Didn't know what to do, and you're not getting anyone near him.
He was isolated, and what makes it worse is especially seeing Iwobi come off. I mean, I know some people slate him, but at least he's got some forward thinking and attacking mentality. He goes forward. I mean, we're not playing together as a team to attack. We're not, there's some beautiful balls that have gone across field to him early in the game that you think, he could run onto that. But then there's still that gap. There's no other winger that's coming in to let the forward run over. There's no midfield press or a defender pushing forward to keep Villa back in. Yeah, so he's isolated. But at times as well, sometimes I was thinking he did more defending than our defence. He comes back and he's got the right sort of mentality, but it's useless unless you're left playing some sort of cohesive team tactics. And I mean, it's just so frustrating to watch us play at times and repeatedly 2 goals down, 3 goals down, 4 goals down, at least have signs of improvement that there's something to take to the next match. But we get the balls out wide or even in the middle of the pitch and you get it. And rather than on the half turn and take it or give and go, you'll have, for instance, 3 or 4 players involved in a little play. A man will get it, be the static man. You'll have the overlap and there'll be a man inside and the pivot and they'll pass it and it will go, overlap man back to the to the static man. The overlap man will run. He'll pass it to the pivot man, who'll pass it back to the static man, and then it'll go back to another defender. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? There's no tactical stuff here. All we've just done is brought a player back so that we're under pressure, so that should the other team put a press on us, we're going to be under the cosh with fewer players. I'm sorry.
Let's move on. When we tried to play out, Villa pressed, pinned onto us. We didn't have any out ball. When we pinned onto them, they struggled. But then actually, as the game went on in that first half, once we stopped pressing and sat off, they just passed around us with ease, didn't they? And they found so many opportunities to score.
Yeah.
Pickford actually made a fantastic save. I believe they got down our right-hand side. Nathan Patterson is proving to be not an adequate right back at this level. I mean, that's not particularly fair to just isolate him because I can assure you we will hammer some of the others. But the ball goes across and it's Diaby volleys it and Pickford saves it onto the post that comes out. Villa could have been 3-4, 5-0. It wasn't like the Fulham game. This was, it could have been well out of sight, couldn't it, by half time?
Well, the thing is, when you're playing Villa, from Everton's experience the last few years, they lose every game to Villa. And one of the reasons is they kill us with the pace and the transition and the movement, and they're just all round sharper than us. We're nowhere near them. So a couple of passes out and they're through and they're up against.
But would you say someone like Onana was completely anonymous in that midfield?
We can break down
all over the place.
I could break down every single player and tell you which ones were shocking because there was quite a few of them today. Not many of them came out with some praise, but I did think Idrissa Gueye in that midfield is just too slow as a single. And I think tactically you've got to be aware of that when you play this sort of team who are going to be in transition. You just left him as the lone midfielder because Onana was always too high up the pitch. It
was a 4-1-4-1.
Corey was high up the pitch as well. So you literally left Garner isolated. He's not got the pace to keep up with players. And it was just it's just a disaster for that whole half. It's not necessarily his fault. The manager's got to play that double pivot there, I think, and protect him. At least in the first half, you're away from home. Don't concede the goals in that first half. And then as a secondary point, as you've already alluded to with Garner, as in James Garner, he's playing right wing. He's not a right winger. I don't know what you're asking him to do, but he was much better in the midfield. he doesn't know where he's meant to be as a right winger, and you saw that for the goal. But Patterson, the team's too narrow up against that Villa side, who when they attack the ball, when they attack in the offensive phase of play, they switch to a back three. And it allows, like, Luka Dean plays as an effective winger, and then they've got the other winger on the other side. So they've stretched the pitch right up. They've still got the two up front because they got Watkins and Diaby. So they're isolating our centre-backs. But there's huge gaps when we're playing this really narrow four. So you've got to think, should we have switched to a three and had the two fullbacks marking their two wide players and freed it up, or get more in the midfield? Because Diaby was just dropping off and there was so much space in front of the back line. It tactically was a whole mess from Everton today.
Yeah, David, you speak so much sense. We need you the tactics board, but you're right. You felt at times that our wingers should have stayed wide with their fullbacks, and we should have gone man for man, but we didn't. And it was very confusing the way we'd sometimes go and pin and try and press and stop them, and other times we'd sit off. But as the game went on and we'll go into the second half, Lewis Dobbin came on at half time for Garner, who, as you said, struggled, played right wing. Lewis Dobbin, which he's more of a left winger, but he played on the right. When we tried to pin on them to try and stop them playing through us, they passed around us. When we sat off them, they played around us. We were outclassed by Villa, and they didn't really need an awful lot. And the third goal, I mean, you could say that Everton didn't really show a lot of signs of coming back into the game up to that point. Lewis Dobbin had he was bright when he got the ball, but he was in and out the game. He was too in and out the game.
Because there's no cohesion between our play from, across the pitch from top to bottom or bottom to top going forward. There's no plan to go, okay, he's got the ball, I know what my job is. And it seems so frustrating to sit and watch us go, okay, I know exactly what's going to happen here. We'll dink it around here. If we don't find any avenue, simply because no players are drawing other players to open up avenues, they'll just stand and pass back. And then it'll go across the back or round the other side. And it's just, there's no incisive play. There's no, I mean, sorry, by the way, as well, there's so many people in the comments. This is just my opinion. There's so many people in the comments that seem to be maybe getting at each other's throats. And I think it's purely because we're so frustrated. We're trying to dissect and make sense of this. And hopefully, clutching at straws, think, oh, there's room for improvement. This can be identified and move on and improve. There's so many things wrong. As somebody said before, that it's 30 years of managed or unmanaged decline, in which we're now watching the end result of sorry to maybe go a bit off topic, but just to contextualize it for everyone. Like, come on here, watch, enjoy if you want, see us having a fume. But it's 30 years of fecklessness where we've gradually decreased our conveyor belt of young players. We've not invested in the right sort of squad. We have an imbalanced squad. We've overpaid for old players, which have then gone out on contract. So financially and on the books, we're just screwed.
Okay. I can see you all in the comments. So what I've decided to do, because it is a major stream, you're all kind of got so much to say, and I do apologize. It's impossible for me to get them all on the screen and try and direct the stream. So what I'm going to do is, as soon as this finishes in around 20 minutes, I'll host a phone in, and you can come on yourselves. You don't have to have a camera, and one of us will speak to you and get your thoughts, and you can absolutely fire away and ask us questions and divulge. For now, let's go into that third goal. Come on, what is this? I mean, this is some of the most embarrassing things I have ever seen in my life. Why are we so dysfunctionally set up from a throw-in again? And then you can argue, it's not just Michael Keane in a bad position. Yes, he fluffs at it, but where is the covering centre? Where are the covering players? How is that allowed to happen? How is he allowed to just chuck it into, that area like so easily? Was that their throw-in or ours? Because for some reason I feel like it was.
It was their throw-in. The other throw-in. The next goal was the one where it was our throw-in. So both goals were from stupid long throws.
Jan, talk us through that third goal, please.
Calamity, lack of situational awareness, a wild swipe by Michael Keane. If you're playing at Premier League level, you should know where your foot is and where the ball is. And if you don't have confidence, if you think that you're not going to stretch it or clear it, or if in doubt, kick it out kind of stuff, then you cover the man and you press him and you try and push him out wide or wait for cover from another player to come back. You don't expose yourself to getting clear through on Sorry.
It's a wild swipe. I mean, that's David, hard to argue with that. Why is he not in control of the situation? Do you think he was in the wrong position, or?
I think he wasn't expecting it, and B, I wasn't sure whether he was trying to bring the ball down rather than actually clear it.
But why would you bring the ball down in that position?
He should have just been like thumping through it. You tell me Cody or Mina wouldn't have just thumped that away, because I think they would have.
Okay. I mean, at that point, it swings and roundabouts. Aston Villa are all over us. They were playing through us. I think the only threat that Everton had was possibly through Danjuma, who was...
The game was over by that point.
Yeah, Alex Iwobi came off. Alex Iwobi came off with a hamstring injury, innocuously so. Of course, it never rains, it pours. I mean, the whole event was some sort of a sketch show where how not to win a football match. Everton's attack at this point was very pedestrian. Neil Mope came on, played centre striker. That pushed Danjuma onto the wing. So the front three was Dobbin, Danjuma and Neil Mope. And Mope continues to impress me with his movement. But again, I just want him to score so bad. And I feel frustrated for the guy because he was in a good position from that corner. Martinez saves low down and you just think it's just never going to come off for him. And, Villa then turned the screw. They made a substitution. Duran scored 50 seconds after coming on. And it's Alex, what's his face? Ashley Young throws it back to him. When do you ever see that really? Throwing it, like firing a throw in back at your centre half who, without a clear line, I mean, it's like some sort of sick bet or something really sus going on there. Keane, he doesn't want the ball. He's probably not anticipating to get it, but still, he kind of shits out of the challenge and it's 1v1. And at that point, 4-0, you're thinking if you don't laugh, you're going to cry. It might as well be 7 or 8 and really highlight how bad this Everton team is and how delusional we must be to be 20th of August without the players we need. But Danjuma, I suppose, shown a bit of brightness, but it was like a training game. We never looked like scoring. And you're looking at this and thinking, get Keane off. Get Young off for Mikalenko. And I don't know how many subs we had, but get Decore off as well, because he looked like some sort of granddad who was jogging around the pitch, absolutely knackered. It was focused on fitness, but the players look unfit. Over to you.
We didn't have any substitutions left. I agree. I would have been looking to put one of those centre backs at least on. I would have probably put Branthwaite on if I was in charge, just to see how he coped in that sort of situation. We need to see what he's like in the Premier League. You can't just leave them sat on the bench, but he's going to persist with Keane week on week. I just wanted to touch back on that fourth goal. The typical nature of the fact it was scored by this John Duran, which I've never heard of the guy, but the commentator made it out like he couldn't hit a barn door. He couldn't hit a barn door with a yo-yo, and he's never scored before. And he comes on.
West Ham 1, Chelsea 0.
50 seconds later, he's put the ball in the back of the net. It only happens against Everton.
Yeah, I believe so. I think I've covered pretty much what I need to say about the game. I was tweeting throughout it. I thought it was one of the most abject displays I've ever seen from an Everton point of view. The goals were self-inflicted, kamikaze. If you analyse it and summarise it, you've got DCL with a damaged face, Iwobi with a hamstring injury, who's never injured for us, a pathetic penalty, and 2 goals conceded from throw-ins. What are these players doing? I don't care how fit you are and how much work you've been doing on fitness for 10 weeks. If you are that poor at your actual job, that you are that inept, that you can't even do the basics, then what is the point? Sean Dyche will not last till Christmas if this is the direction that this club is going in. People can say we're overreacting. It's only 2 games in, but I don't look at this as a 2-game inner. I look at this as a 3rd season of a continuation of just Everton being shit with no actual sort of solution. So that's why I'm looking at it like that.
What is the solution, right?
We need to invest in some good players. We need a centre-back desperately. If Branthwaite's not up to the job, he's not up to the job. Move him on. Get a centre-half who's ready for Premier League football. Both our full-backs are poor. Patterson's poor. Young isn't really that much better. And,
I
and we're
have a
not going to
question.
achieve all three. We need defenders. Jan
I
today.
have a question.
We're scared of engaging up the pitch because they haven't got the pace.
I have a question. I don't know if any of you saw like the XG from today, like it was 3 for Villa or something like that against a half for Everton or something. But then the one from Fulham last game was something like 2.5 or 3 for both teams, or we should have won that on the XG. Now we played a lot better, but we didn't score, and then we allowed that silly goal through a lack of cover, a similarly defensive cock up. Our level of performance last week was, I don't know if up here's 10 out of 10. I don't really want to put it up there, but if it's somewhere and then we drop our performance, clearly, you're going to score fewer goals, but we've scored 0 and 0. But if it comes about conceding, do you think that at some point would you put Aston Villa at 4 goals or 3 goals better than Fulham? Or is it a combination of our lack of ability to dominate a game? I mean, because we had so many more chances last week against Fulham that it was a miracle that we didn't score a goal. We had a disallowed goal. We should have earned some of those things. So when you say that we're going to be in this situation of Dyche not being, sorry,
we never looked like scoring today. We never truly looked like scoring, and the only player who showed a bit of fight and energy was Dan Juma. I thought across the back line, it was dreadful. Tarkowski, Michael Keane, of course, with the 2 goals. Patterson didn't know whether he was coming or going. Positionally, and the midfield was really, really bad. All of them, Onana, anonymous, Iwobi poor. Dobbin showed some bright spells and some good footwork, and I would have liked to see a bit more from him. And Neil Maupay gets in some good positions, and his link-up is quite good, but there's no goals in this team. And the sad thing is, I would take 17th place right now. I'd snap your hand off for it because, a spade is a spade. A spade doesn't suddenly become a shovel overnight. That's a terrible analogy. David, I feel like you've got a burning desire to say something, but these are the same things we've been talking about for years, except Sean Dyche actually resolved these kamikaze errors, and now they're coming back. If he can't do the basics, what can he do?
I'm just sat there thinking about the fact Everton are bottom of the league, -5 goal difference, 2 games played. A normal season, you'd say it's just a poor start, but with the last 2 years, this is Everton starting off as bad as they possibly can do, and setting themselves up for a complete campaign fighting relegation, which we just don't have the energy for anymore. I'm just tired of it, and I think everyone would have got halfway through this game and it came out, saw no improvement for 5 minutes and really just wanted to switch it off, especially when that 3rd goal in. I could have fallen asleep after that because I just didn't want to watch it, but I felt compelled that I had to continue watching it. But there's just no positives to take from it, really. I mean, Dan Juma, yes, I think that was the only glimmer, really. He looks lively. He's not quite up to fitness, and I think he will be better off the left. And when he can link up with Calvert-Lewin, which looks unlikely because he's probably going to be out for 2 months, and we need McNeil back. We just look so thin right now. We're not going to pick up any points with this squad. And where's Demarai Gray? Because he's been out for weeks now. If he's going to be sold, why hasn't he gone already? And if he isn't, where is he?
Demarai Gray's, even for all the time we've had him, has been lightweight. He's been a momentary feature player. And like you say, Dan Juma has that strength and that desire to run back. And as you say, that's the positive thing. But do we have the facility on here to do like an impromptu poll, or is it just asking everyone watching now, maybe just put your thoughts really briefly in a yes, no, whatever in the comments. I've been watching Everton for 30 years. Not as long as some of you, longer than others. But especially with the last 2 seasons, that I think, I don't know whether it's malaise or fatigue or just a frustration. That is the first time that I've wanted at half time to just go, no, I want to go out and sit in the garden and not watch, because it's inevitable and it's frustrating. That's the first time. And I don't know whether I feel, I don't know if anyone else felt like this. Like, I don't want to say I don't love Everton, but it's just got to the point now where I used to have this frustration of watching and going, come on. We can do this. We can get a goal. There's some positive signs, but now it's just, it's like turning the plug off on life support.
3 or 4 years back and the sort of 10 years before that, I'd be really frustrated if we were losing 2-0, but I'd still believe we can get back into the game and still watch it with every intent and every minute. And if it fell off, if a stream came off, I'd be hunting it desperately, get it back on. If this stream came off or I missed 5 minutes, you just lose. You just don't care because, you know, as you say, it's inevitable that nothing will happen apart from the possibility we might concede a goal. And it's really grinding us down now. I've just been away for a few days and I didn't have much time to keep up with the Everton stuff, and it was quite good, you know, because it was quite peaceful. I didn't have to think of it, and I wasn't in Liverpool where it's all happening and where everyone's upset. So,
I mean, I made a joke in our group chat. I think it was about, obviously there was 9 minutes of added time at the end of each one, but I made a joke, I think 10 or 15 minutes from the end. What's more likely, Villa to get another goal or Everton to have a shot on target?
It's just not good enough.
Well, while Ryan is scrolling through his phone looking for something to say, one thing I will point out, I did tweet it. I found this absolutely appalling in the first half. Andy Hinchcliffe, the consummate professional, decided to say, and there's Sean Dyche out there, with the armband, looking like a croupier and having a chuckle. And I thought that was absolutely
I didn't watch it on Sky. I can't stand them. Disgusting comment. I'm just remissing here. Someone just put up a picture saying, I miss this team. It's Andre Gomez, Alan, James Rodriguez, Richarlison, and Decore. And I've come in on that and said, I miss that. I mean, and I missed even before that the group of England players. We had Jagielka, Baines, Rooney, Barry, and Walcott at one point. They were like the England sort of contingent. We were never amazing, but at least there was something quite likable about them. And then before that, your De La Feus, Barclays, Lukaku's, McCarthy, that sort of team. That was quite a likable team as well. Finished 13, 14, fifth and were competitive and enjoyable. And then before that, 2012, 2008, Yakubu's, Pinars, Morales, Fellaini's, Arteta's, Kales. There's nothing enjoyable about
Naismith and Johnson, I'd take.
There's nothing likable about this group of players. And I find it struggling to get myself motivated. I mean, I'm working next Saturday now. I'm going to sell my Wolves ticket. And normally I would be furious about having to miss a match. And I'm actually thinking, you know what? Well, what am I going to miss? Really? It's not that exciting. I want to go to the comments. I don't know how you guys feel about actually opening up the floor in this stream to people to come on and speak to us.
Go for it.
It's a match reaction. We'd have to manage it accordingly. But do you guys fancy that? Or do you think it's... Should we see how we go and see if someone joins us?
I mean, honestly, Ryan, I prefer it if we didn't talk about Everton. So if people want to talk about other stuff, go for it. But,
Let's just run through these comments very quickly. Some of them that we started.
I'll be back in a second.
Go on. Matthew saying, I don't know what's happened at Everton from what I've seen before. Remove yourself, Yana, if you haven't already. It's going to be a long, hard and painful season. Everton, everything is worse than 2 seasons. Dave, can you see those starred comments?
Yeah, I'm seeing them, but I've got no control because I'm not logged in. It's logged me out.
I was just going to say, can you do it? Because the computer here is so buggy. I need a new laptop. We'll have to start a fundraiser. Tazul is saying, what was the shocking even by Everton standards? Chris is saying, all the goals are terrible, unavoidable. Something tangible to work on. Joey is saying all the goal, the McGinn one, nobody is marking anyone. Tarkovsky slides in unnecessarily. Razor saying, effing hate this club, absolute embarrassment run by an absolute bunch of clowns. Had enough. Everton can get effed. I don't blame you for feeling that way. Happy Chappy saying it's clear we have no quality on the wing, so teams will come and exploit that. Patterson, Young, Awobi, Garner out wide was asking for trouble. Agreed. Barry saying, good job, Jeff. Jeff left the station. Well, actually, I believe he's on Twitter Spaces doing a match reaction. So, yeah, no comment on that. Drew is saying getting the basics is wrong. Hopes he rips into the players. Yeah, but he's also at fault, Dave, isn't he? He's accountable for that formation, that setup. Persisting with some of the individual names like Michael Keane when he's got 3 other centre-backs.
Yeah, but I think even if we'd played a bit better, we might have lost this game because I think Villa are in a different, they are in a different league to us, really. It's hard to say.
If you want to try and log in, Dave, I can give you the code.
I have returned.
Like what I'm going to say, because my computer's really buggy. Yanni, you still there?
Like
I
fuzzing
am
up,
still
Ryan.
here, yeah.
I'm fuzzing up.
Yeah, don't worry about it, Ryan. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what's left to say. People want a dissection, and I just think it was.
I think we've
it was
dissected
frustrating.
it. I think we've dissected it. Am I any better now? Does it look clearer?
Oh, you're all right. I mean, your video's a bit fuzzy. I'm just looking at this now, the table. In case anyone's interested, I spent about 3 or 4 solid days writing an entire workbook that's got all the fixtures, that pulls it through, creates a table, creates separate, everything for all different teams, did calculations, all this kind of stuff. Now, at the moment, as it stands, well, West Ham have gone up to about 5th. Or 6th. But yeah, Everton are bottom, and Wolves are bottom. And 19th. They've got 1 goal better than us. I mean, Burnley have got the game in hand against Luton because the Hatters Stadium, is it Kenilworth Road, isn't fit for Premier League fixtures at the moment, which is rather frustrating. So that could have seen Luton maybe bottom of the table. Or Burnley maybe get the points from that. But we're playing 19th, Wolves. Okay, so they didn't do too bad at United, but then they got tonked by Brighton, and Brighton seemed to be a team to look out for. But you just got to wonder. We've got this game next Saturday, and I mean, how do you feel about it? Oh, well, Ryan's gone.
Ryan's gone. I'm sure he'll be back. I mean, from what I saw of the highlights of Wolves yesterday, they did get tonked, but it was Brighton and they created quite a lot of chances. They just didn't put them away. I think they did a similar job to what we did last week. So, it's going to be an interesting one. -4 and -5 goal differences, respectively. So tight. I think both teams are going to be down there, aren't they? I think Wolves will be.
We've got some people joining in. I'll add them one by one. That's what we normally do, isn't it? And just so firstly, we've got Chris.
Hey guys.
Welcome, Chris.
You're right.
Hey, is my audio coming through?
Yeah, it's fine.
Awesome. Oh man, so clearly we can talk about how poor this game was for hours. What I'm thinking about right now is how are we gonna survive Wolves next week? They were about as bad as we were this week. We now have lost DCL, McNeil, Iwobi. How we may have Che Adams come in the week, but how do we even shape up to try and make amends for this? Because in the midfield, we were slow. We were either too compact and made this weird little circle in the middle and gave up too much width. I know previously Wolves played kind of like us, but I'm really worried about what we can even do next week to get by. Because if we lose to Wolves at home, it's already becoming that dour feel that when we lost to Southampton around Christmas time.
Yeah, it's starting to look like it starts to feel as if the writing's on the wall and it's just downward and the players' heads are down and there's no positive signs because we haven't scored a goal. We haven't, and anything positive that we have done has almost been penalised. Like there was a bit of double standard in the refereeing against Fulham to an extent. We had a goal disallowed. Today we just got completely eviscerated. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Wolves lost Jimenez to Fulham. So you'd think that they're lesser than they were, but I don't know. And then oh God, that Mateus Nunes is out for the game because he got a second yellow. So if we can't capitalize and get 3 points against Wolves, I mean, I don't. The thing is, I've got so little confidence that I can't even say, oh yeah, we'll definitely do it. I think it's just a wait and see.
Yeah, because honestly, the other thing is it seemed. And I made a comment on this as well. Like the fact that Young can give away such a bonehead goal suggests that the whole team lost their heads. Maybe it was after DCL, maybe it was after Iwobi going down, but there was this kind of, it was obviously a malaise on the team, but I think everyone's heads dropped and Keane clearly drops his head when things don't go right. So how does Daesh in his gritty, grisly voice of his try and shape the headspace to come back and even be ready and revved up for the match, you know, because that was another thing where I think a lot of people dropped their heads other than Danjuma and Dobbin. And I guess Mopai, for the 5 minutes he came on the pitch, and then he succumbed to whatever disease the people in the field had.
I mean, in some ways, the only positive I can kind of twist this is that because we lost in such an embarrassing way, maybe we will come back stronger rather than just losing by the odd one goal. And, you know, Dyche will give them a rocket up the backside. He will break down exactly what went wrong and try and fix it. But I do think this will be a bit of a stale game. Everton and Wolves not able to score. The lowest 2 scorers last season. They've already sold Jimenez. They've got the young kid up front who's just finding his feet. So I think this is going to be, you know, quite a low scoring affair.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's awful. And if we get points, they'll take it. But like, because Goodison's such a small pitch as well, like both teams play narrow and they don't play with width, you know, so it'll be really interesting and not interesting to watch at the same time.
Well, I mean, while I've got you on, Chris, thanks. We've got some other people waiting as well. Do thank you for coming on. But Collis here has said, you people keep talking and talking. You're not addressing the main problem, why Keane is playing. I mean, I think...
Branthwaite or Godfrey need to play instead. Either of them.
I mean, I think we identified multiple problems, and then it's sort of a discussion over, is it a combination or what is it? It's, you know, it's the lack of passing, it's the lack of pitch cohesion, it's poor tactical decisions and poor substitutions, it's injuries, it's lack of depth in squad. You know, and I think it was Peter just said before. Mr. Blue Skies just said before, we've been a poor passing team since we lost players like Sigurdsson. I mean, would you pin it all on Keane today?
No. I think it was also tactical. Like, we've had this problem, and I think that's probably why we didn't get Cody. Tarkovsky and Cody as a pair were solid at Goodison when you can play a deeper line. But the second you're on a bigger pitch, we had to play a really high line to try and play that sort of, I guess it's like midline press to try and make sure that we can get a quick turnaround and look dangerous. So we don't have the leg speed at the back. Potentially Godfrey, but he's a liability positionally, as we know, and I don't know about Branthwaite. But because we lack the leg speed in the back, we either play a really high line and try and... But I think we kind of messed it up. We still pressed, disjunct, like in a poor... Like, it wasn't organized, and they were able to pass around us because they're actually skillful players. We'll get away with it with Wolves, but I don't think it was just Keane. Keane was not good enough, but I think also putting Garner out of position... He was unfortunately he played well except for positionally, like tracking back last match against for their goal, and I think it happened again between him and Keane. Did they pass him off and play zonally, or did someone take initiative and say it was my ball? Yeah, that's partly Keane. Clearly, the boneheaded swing and miss or shank off the calf was definitely his fault, but it's not just him. It's way more than just him. But he should be replaced.
Yeah. That's what I said. I mean, in the pre-match for this, I wanted to see Branthwaite because, like I said, what's the worst that could happen? On that note, Chris, sorry to cut you off, mate.
There's a lot of other people. Go for it.
Yeah, but thank you very much. Have a lovely time, and hope it's 1-2 in the morning there at the moment, isn't it?
So I'm one of those hybrid people with an Australian-US accent. It's 9 a.m. in Arizona for me.
Okay. Well, I would say have a good day, but I hope it gets better.
Well, it's not the work week, so it'll get better.
Take care, Chris. Thanks for coming on, mate.
All right. See ya.
See ya. Peter's been waiting patiently. Peter Duggan. Welcome. Thanks for joining us, Peter.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me? I've got a bit of commotion in the background. Sorry, I am in a pub.
That's all right. Is everyone absolutely losing their sanity?
Well, I'm going to try and keep it a little bit PG rated because I've got kids around, I must admit. But yeah, oh God, mate, what the hell was that? I mean, honestly, I'm furious. I've said before the season started that you've probably seen a few of the videos where I've done phone-ins before, where I've actually said that I wasn't happy that Dyche was appointed. And one of the reasons was Michael Keane favouritism. And today we saw 2 mistakes from him that cost us serious goals. And I'm absolutely livid. One other thing that's really infuriated me, and it's got nothing to do with Dyche as well, by the way. They brought Idrissa Gana Gueye back to this club, and he's 32 years old, mate. He is crap. I watched that first goal, mate. That was his fault. He gave the ball away. He couldn't win it in the tackle. And then when he made the recovery run, he was jogging back. I was watching thinking, you lazy bellend, what are you doing? I couldn't frigging believe it, mate. It was unbelievable.
There were a couple of instances last season. I don't know if it was Brentford or when he left us exposed in midfield and the attacking players went through. And maybe to my fault, I do hold my hands up and say it wasn't entirely his fault. It was a whole team effort because of players not coming in and nobody's covering the back. But I mean, absolutely. He's shown his age. And although Ashley Young has something to offer, he's not the player that he was when he was at Everton last.
Well, I got to say this, mate. Idrissa Gueye, regarding that situation, what you just talked about there, it was actually Man United. And the worst thing was, it was Christian Eriksen who ran past him like he wasn't even there. Yeah. Christian Eriksen has a fucking heart problem, mate. How the fuck is he beating him for pace? It's unreal. And not to mention, you say Ashley Young there. Listen, I've got nothing against the guy. I think he's quite healthy and fit for his age. The problem with the poor lad is that I just don't think he's a good defender. I think if you're going to play Ashley Young and Patterson, mate, you've got to play a back three, because as wing backs they can offer something going forward, but as full backs they're not. Defensively they're just failures, mate. I can't see anything from them. And I got another thing I want to touch on is that that Calvert-Lewin injury. How did our medical staff not see that was a serious injury right from the off? Yeah. How poor are they?
I think they probably could see it could be a serious injury, and you could see Neil Maupay warming up, but Calvert-Lewin would have insisted, wouldn't he, that he wanted to stay on. So there's not a lot we could have done about it, really.
Yeah, I mean,
Everton, Dyche didn't use the concussion substitution because Everton is so squad bare. The squad's so thin that they didn't want to give Villa the chance to make a sixth substitution.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's really wound me up today, I'm sorry if I sound a little bit like aggressive or whatever, but the thing that's really wound me up today was like Sean Dyche. I've made it clear that I didn't want him as manager. Today, the thing he did that really wound me up was Dan Juma putting him on the bench, mate, and playing Garner out of position. What a joke. When I saw him come on from the bench, and he looked perfectly fit to start, in my opinion. He did really well when he came on. He worked his socks off. He looked like he had a bit of talent. His technique looked okay. So he looked perfectly fit to start, and he's playing Garner out of position and dropping him to the bench. I mean, what the friggin' hell? Like, one of the things...
Sorry.
Yeah, go on, yeah.
No, I was just going to say, what that says to me is when people say, oh, he's not fit to start, it smacks of a deeper problem going on with the strength in depth, or the fitness in the squad. If he's not fit to start, then why is he on the bench? Because I think that any player that's on the bench is fit enough to play. So I can't make any sense of it.
I think he possibly could have played, 60 minutes. And I think how you can read that is when Calvert-Lewin first went down on 20 minutes, it was Maupay that went up to warm up. But when he went down on 35 minutes, it was Dan Juma, because he could have played that 60 minutes comfortably after playing 45 midweek. I think it's a fitness thing, but Dyche is very, very keen to have the players 100% fit before he'll risk them, whereas quite a lot of us Evertonians would probably say, let's get him from the start and take him off after 60 minutes if we can do it, and keep some balance in the side, get Dan Juma coming in off the left, linking up with Calvert-Lewin, get Iwobi on the right, protecting Patterson and putting in through balls, and instead we played a lopsided team.
By the way, oh, sorry. No, carry on.
No, go on, yeah.
No, I just got people thinking that we know more about fitness, and I think it's not that we know more about fitness. It's just the frustrating aspect to see a player come on and to offer more than other players that were on the pitch. He might not be at his top, but then I'm not saying I know more about fitness. I'm saying it smacks of something, problems at the club and a lack of fitness or depth or readiness and match readiness. Like somebody said, Barry Horn commented on Radio Merseyside that they look like they'd eaten a full dinner. If you've got players coming on that offer more, why are they not being brought up to speed? Why are we? I don't know. I don't know how to articulate. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, I'll be honest, mate. The one thing I want to touch on here is one thing that really infuriates me about Sean Dyche at the minute is he's got a shit ton of people defending him. And listen, I want to apologise because I am swearing quite a lot, and I must admit it's a bit of a horrible thing to do when I've got kids around me. Jesus, I don't know why I'm doing that. But the thing is, Sean Dyche has got a string of people defending him, mate. He is not a good enough. He is not a good enough manager. He is a championship level manager. He is statistically the worst manager in the Premier League right now. There is no other manager in the Premier League that has more losses than wins on their record other than him. He is the only manager in the Premier League with more losses than wins on his record. And people say he did a good job at Burnley. How can he have done a good job at Burnley if he spent £194.5 million on players and he got relegated twice and he got more losses than wins at that club as well? That's including championship games, mate. I'm sorry, but that's not a good manager for me. That's a manager who is more than capable of getting us relegated. I'm sorry, but if we're struggling to survive relegation, why do you want to bring in a manager who's been relegated twice on the back of spending £194 million on crap players?
I think it's because he has or it was believed that he has the mentality or the ability to get us out of a scrap and to know what it's like to be in that kind of dogfight. But I don't know whether he does, because it's different to when you bring a manager in mid-season and then to say that he's had that break. So yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've got to respond to this, Jan. I'm sorry. I'm getting a bit frustrated, but there's someone in your comments who's really spreading a lot of nonsense here. A guy who's calling himself the Blues. He's saying that I'm lying. Go and look it up, mate. That's a fact. Dyche has more losses than wins on his record, and he spent £194 million at Burnley. He's got a £74.5 million loss. Go and look it up. It is a fact, mate. I'm not lying.
No, what I'll do, Peter, is I'll have a look there and sort of contextualise this work, because we've got more people jumping on now. Honestly, Peter, thank you. Do see you in on most videos watching us. Really appreciate you, mate. Oh, is he gone? Thank you very much, Peter. Really appreciate it, mate. Keep coming on. Thank you for you. Honestly, it's I can understand as well. To everyone who's saying this, like, it's pointless just winding people up, right? Because we're all frustrated. We're all fuming. And we could have our different reasons. We could have our different ways. When you watch a football match, and depending on your position, depending on what you've watched and how you grew up, it's, what you doing here?
It's not me.
Okay.
I'm not logged in, so I can't control anything today.
Okay. Right. Well, on that note, what I'll do is bring in Everton in the dock, who's been waiting very, very patiently. And I think that's a very appropriate name, because Everton are in the dock. And the case for the defence or the prosecution. Here we go. Welcome to the channel. Hiya, mate.
All
right.
Yeah. Great show, as per usual. Peter there was basically saying everything that I'm feeling personally. I'm not saying that Peter's right, and I'm not saying that I'm right. But what I am saying is I feel hurt. We can all see that Rome is burning when something that drastic nature is happening. Yes, he done the job of keeping us up in the division, Dyche. But when we want to proceed and expand and see something of a shape, I see nothing. I know we are limited with personnel. We've got 3 players maybe to come in. But the bottom line is, whatever 11 I would put on as a manager, I would want to see some shape, some cohesion, some understanding, some togetherness, some fight, some courage. And I don't see any of it. And when people say it's the players, I say, you get a manager. I'm thinking of De Zerbi. Would De Zerbi leave Brighton and come to Everton? He plays lovely football. I would take the chance. And lads, I would take the chance. I am really, really fearful of where we're heading.
He does play beautiful football, but when you look at what Brighton have done, they've invested. They have a spirit. They have there's something magical going on at the Amex.
I know.
But I honestly, I don't know if I'm going to get it in the neck for this. I can't imagine how anyone could possibly tempt him to come to Everton. Would you want to from his position?
Jan? Yeah.
Can
you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we can hear you, mate.
I'm sorry. Do you know who the head guy of recruiting is at Brighton? If you don't know, you won't believe it. It's Weir, Davy Weir.
Oh.
Can we not tempt David Weir? I'm not saying that our current one is doing a bad job, but what I am saying is David Weir knows Everton, and I tell you what, he has pulled some rabbits out the bag in bringing being influential and bringing some of those Brighton players, and especially the Japanese. If he is Japanese, what a lovely winger.
Oh, and Mitoma.
Yeah.
Yes.
What a fantastic player, and his
Yes.
desire and hunger when he just ran.
I know.
He was plucked out of the Belgium league, wasn't he? You'd never heard of him. It's those
exactly
sort of players we need to be going for.
Basil, exactly, and that is my hope that we can get somebody in. Because honest to God, I've seen bad managers. I've seen Mike Walker, and I'm sorry, Dice is not Everton.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm looking at what Peter just said before. I am looking at. It's an article from, admittedly, about 9 months ago, but it's really not looking very good for Sean Dyche in terms of the win percentage. He is very much down there in the bottom couple.
I think just on the Brighton subject, I don't think Everton could play, the players we have just couldn't play De Zerbi's type of football, but I think we are trying to. We're looking at their model, and I think we're thinking about it, because you look at some of the transfers we've made, the likes of Chimiti, they're trying to think about whether we can bring these youngsters in before they become named players that cost the 30-40 million like Nonto. But Chimiti, if he's not going to make an appearance for months, then it just doesn't seem like the right signing, does it?
No, I mean, it may be long term, but
we're suffering now.
We need something right now. Yeah. Kazuri's just said in the comments, wouldn't hurt to take Ritsu Doan. I don't know who that is. Robbie was waiting in the wings. He did all right for Japan in the World Cup. I don't know where Doan is, but the Japanese captain's just joined. Oh God, is it Liverpool?
Is that Endo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I've always been very impressed by the work ethic and the mentality on the pitch of Japan when you've seen them in international competitions. Oh, absolutely. But the number of times we've had South American players, and rather than them be McAllisters and Messis and stuff, we always end up with Yerry Mina, Glass Cannon, God, who was the other defender we had?
Sorry, I'm looking at Doan.
Yeah, he was that good. I can't even remember. He's at a Bundesliga. I think it's Freiburg. But yeah, I don't know.
He can play across the forward line, mainly right wing. I mean, that's what we need. We need a right winger, a genuine right winger, because every player we have seems to be left. I mean, Dobbin came in on the left, but as soon as Iwobi went off, it was like, you're on the right, because Danjuma's better on the left. So what's the point being stacked where every player is good on the left?
Are we going to bother with player ratings?
Is there any point?
We've got a total of about 30 points to distribute to 11 players, I think, at that rate.
Have all the callers, because I can't see.
Well, Robbie was on. I just, Chelsea are being awarded a penalty, I believe, and it's one of those that, if, let's be honest, he's run into trouble. He's sort of tackled. I think he's tackled. I can't tell. And he's just gone down very easily, going over the line into the box. I mean, it's not as contentious as Szoboszlai's theatrical dancing on ice penalty from the... Anyway. I'm sorry to disappoint any of you guys watching who's waiting for ratings, but I don't see the point. Pickford was at fault, perhaps, for bringing Watkins down, although I think it was rather a soft penalty in terms of contact. And the penalty's been saved by West Ham. It's gone back out and they're under pressure, but West Ham have got the ball and they're going forward again. Still 1-1. What I will say is I think it's very soft in terms of a goalkeeper and a defender contact to give that penalty. It wasn't like he completely. It's all right, Peter. It wasn't like it was completely wipeout or massive injury, like a Pickford on Van Dijk. It was Patterson was sort of found out a little bit and left exposed. Keane was woeful. Tarkowski was doing his best considering the rest of his defence wasn't great. Young was okay going forward and offered something there, but again, the defence wasn't really solid. Garner-Gay wasn't the player that was cutting those out. Therefore, that made Onana a little bit exposed. And if he doesn't have a player to cover for him, he's not as good at going forward, even though he's very good, I think, defensively. He's got a lot of potential. Garner was pushed out wide and was good for playing some balls in and did some good play. But again, all across the pitch, there was no link-up play in terms of being decisive and attacking and catching them out and drawing players. Iwobi, again, okay, but injured. Wasn't the best. Decore was anonymous. DCL, what's the point? I'm sorry, Dave. I
can't rate him. He was only on the pitch for 20 minutes. He'd had an injury. I don't know. He's the only players that come out with any credit for me, really, any genuine credit, or any optimism that I saw was Danjuma, maybe a little bit from Lewis Dobbin. And I was actually quite impressed with some of the parts of James Garner's performance. Take out the mistake he made of not tracking the runner. His general performance, his work rate, his tackling, his passing, his crossfield balls, his forward thinking, his control of the ball, were all positive signs. He's going to be quite a good player, but he shouldn't be stuck on the right winger. I think maybe we need to think about how we finished the season there. We played him in midfield with Garner and Decore in front. I think if Onana's not going to put in a full 90 minutes and be effective the whole game through and actually put that work rate in, what's the point having him in there?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
It just highlights we haven't got wingers.
We're an imbalanced squad still. We haven't gone out there and made a signal of intent. I mean, I'd rather have gone out and said, we are buying someone who's going to go out on the wing and who's going to immediately come into the squad and be like, I'm going to be a number 7 or a number 11 or a winger. I want to play. I'm going to own this team. I'm going to be the talisman, because we lost Richarlison. We've done little to replace it. I mean, I feel sorry for the fans. I feel so sorry. I mean, Mabsy from the channel went. So many went. I was at Villa Park last year when we lost 2 goals. And
yeah, I'm glad I didn't go this year. I went last year as well. But
we've got Robbie on the wings. We'll bring him in because I'm pretty sure, there's plenty of other videos out there. People might want to have had a bit of a fume in the comments. Come on if they wanted the chance. But I'm pretty sure most of you might want to Sunday afternoon, evening, just relax and not think about it. But yeah, and book therapy sessions for the coming week. But on that note, welcome, Robbie.
How are you, boys? I'm concerned about your mental health, both of you.
What? Because we're still watching Everton.
Listen, when you're as old as me and like the oldest swinger in town, do you know what? It's kind of, I've got to, after the last 2 years, I promised myself, and if you see me smiling and people don't think that I'm a blue, even though I've got my red top on, apologies, but I'm in the garden. I promised myself I would not put myself through another year of stress and just total negativity this year. So, boys, it doesn't matter what happens. I'm just going to go, do you know what? I look up to the sky and breathe in and whatever, because I'm kind of trying to detach myself a little bit from Everton. So, because it's been part of my life for so long that if I don't do this, then the consequences kind of like might not be nice. So I've learned after the last 2 years to do it, but it took me decades and decades of life experience to go, do you know what? It's not just a game. It's not just a game for Mabsy. It's not just a game for millions of Everton fans. It's kind of we're kind of like an embarrassment. And is there going to be any improvement? Well, do you know what, boys? We'll do a stream midweek for the Wolves game, and we'll just hope that something's going to happen. We might get Che Adams in. His middle name's Everton, by the way, Che Adams. We might get him in through the week. Is he the answer? I'm not sure, but he's good at leading the line because we've lost DCL again for another 6 or 8 weeks. There's no point in crying about it. He's gone. So, Mopé, okay. If he brings Mopé on because he likes him, then that's what he's going to do. If he brings Keane on again because he loves him and there's something going on there, then so be it. I'm just going to take it on the chin because otherwise, you know what? I'm going to end up getting a 48 box of Andrex from Amazon. So it's not happening.
For the wrong reasons, yeah.
Yeah. So I've just got to say, okay, we should have stuffed Fulham last week. We're paying the consequences today because Aston Villa got battered against Newcastle, didn't he? Absolutely battered. And they carved us up like a knife through butter. And I just think to myself, do you know what? Next week, it's gone. I think the stream we're taking it to another level, by the way, the stream with getting the callers on and listening to people and whatever. It's kind of real, and it's reality. I've loved your stream since day one anyway, but we're kind of taking it on a different level. I just think it's gone now. Today's gone. We've got to just go, right, okay.
Draw a line and start.
No match of the day. No match of the day. Okay, I can do without match of the day. No papers. Yeah. I won't look at the internet. I'll just look forward to our next stream when we're planning for Wolves next week. And you know what? If we get 3 points against Wolves next week, we're mid-table. So I'm just going, that's it. There's teams, believe it or not, there are teams worse than us. We're kind of like on a desert island at the moment, and we're building a boat and we're trying to get off, but we don't know how to build a boat.
And we've got no material.
Robbie, I do love your positivity. Like, maybe I've hesitated to say this because, you know, I'm pretty sure everyone who comes on here, either on the comments or actually on the channel, you know, will know this, that I love Everton. But it gets to a point where I've got to put myself ahead of the football club. And yeah, and if all it's going to cause is distress and anguish and disappointment and upset, I need to find a way to have Everton in my life without being a miserable see you next Tuesday the entire time.
I know Basil's down south, but if you want to meet for a pint this week to have a little chat and talk about being positive and whatever, then mate, I'm retired now, so let's meet through the week and just go, yeah, do you know what? Let's try and smile. And it's not easy, boys. It's not easy, and girls, and all those thousands of people who are just wherever you are. But this stream, we're part of the Blue family, and we're feeling the pain with you, and we're just trying to make things a little bit better, if you know what I mean, so that we can.
Yeah, sorry, Robbie. Yeah, sorry.
So listen, you might have someone else who wants to come on. I'm just cooking.
Barry's about to come on. If you can just hang fire for a couple of minutes, Robbie, and stay there, because I'm loving the positivity. It's lifted us up. But Barry's been trying to get in a couple of times, and we'll I think we'll end it on this. We'll have Barry and then some sort of positive, uplifting thing from you, Robbie, if we can before we go. But Barry, welcome to Follow Everton. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Evening, Jan. How are you, mate?
Hi, buddy.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, everyone's gone on about Michael Keane. Is it time, and I'm not taking the mickey, to put a bid in for Harry Maguire?
Well, it's the wages, isn't it? It's 30 to 40 million pounds plus his wages. I mean, if we were going to have wage money to spend, I would have said, go for the likes of Adama Traore. It wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea, but we needed an out-and-out right winger, someone to sprint down there. If we had money to throw at free transfers and we had the wage demands, we would have done it. But it tells me we just can't, we can't spend this money on wages.
I'd be a bit concerned as well. My take on that is, I do understand, the argument, and he's unsettled, and he might have, I think, is it West Ham or Villa put in a bid for him? But my think is, it's a lot of money to spend on a player that that has a record as being a bit shaky or Robbie's gone, being a bit unreliable. So is it really the best value replacement for Michael Keane? When I'm just thinking, can we get worse than what we've got? Well, yes, but from the players we've got, I mean, Godfrey isn't awful, and Branthwaite has shown promise. So why not give Branthwaite a go?
Yeah.
That's my thinking on it.
Jan?
Yes, mate.
I don't think Dyche likes the young players. He got rid of Isaac Price, who's now playing for Standard Liège every week. If Braithwaite is good, he plays him. I think he rates the young kids. Simple as that.
Yeah. It's like, why at the last season, why weren't we putting Tom Cannon on for 10, 15 minutes, at least to get him some experience, and maybe by the end of the season, get him, 30 minutes or even a half, or even starting him. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he was on the bench today, Cannon, but, he didn't get on.
And we've got Katia Kuyate, we've got Tyler Onyango, we've got all these players that, I mean, admittedly, for a few years have worked their way up through. Barry, I'm sorry to cut you off there, mate. I think, but we're running on a little bit, and I think we'll. Is there anything else you want to say? Because sorry, mate. Anything else you want to say? No.
I'll have to go. I'll have to go anyway, Yank. I'm suffering from COVID anyway, mate. So thanks for the good show, anyway, mate.
No, you're very welcome, mate. I hope you feel better soon, buddy.
Get better soon.
Cheers, pal. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Barry.
I mean,
right, Barry did make a good point there about Harry Maguire.
There's no doubt Harry Maguire would improve the team, but we've got to be really sensible about how we make these dealings and what we prioritize.
Oh, well, somebody has come on with a different name than. Yeah, there we go. Right, on this note, I thought I was wrapping it up, but we've been joined by somebody.
Lads, I've got good news. I've got Che Adams on a 15 million deal. 15 million.
15 million for Che Adams?
Well, he scored 5 Premier League goals last season, so that's 3 million a goal. We've said that was a good deal, and you know me, I'm easily convinced. That's all I've got to say. Good night from me. Bill Kenwrong.
Kazuri's come on again. I was wondering why Tom Cannon didn't get on today. He's been decent coming aside from the right wing, and Garner would have played it better in a central and deeper role, and it would have given him more support. Yes. Look, if you can't have always the best players playing, if you want to make the best team, it's about the best 10 outfield players. Because Pickford, obviously, who we're going to play, João Virginia or Lonergan, or right? Have somebody to complement and utilize the skills. It's why Carsley and Gravison were good to get. Sorry, I'm starring that comment.
The fact is, I mean, you've got a Dyche. He plays the best 11 players he has, rather than the best 11 players for the position, or at least that's how I see it. And he plays Michael Keane, and he's
5 centre midfielders is the best for the positions.
I think because he can't, Onana, Garner, Doucouré, and James Garner. I think he thinks they're the best 4 of our better players, and he can't drop one of them. I think if we had wingers, he probably would drop them, but he's probably weighing up Dobbin as a full 90 minutes, and he probably doesn't think he's going to get it out of him.
Right, look, if we carry on much longer, we'll be making Evertonians suffer almost as long as they did watching the 108 minutes that was that calamitous display today. Look, we've dissected our failures. We haven't so much talked about Villa's positivity and their resilience in turning around, but I think it would have been a disservice to all the Evertonians here who wanted to dissect why we are just so terrible. Villa played well. They played attacking football. We saw Digne's more forward attacking, crossing, creative thing that was suppressed when he was here. They've done well to pick up after losing Mings and Buendia. And they've done well. There's more injuries possibly for them, but Unai Emery has transformed Villa from a team that was sliding down the league last season to one that are doing quite well. Unfortunately, I think that we should have just put out a bit more. We should have at least challenged them, and certainly, 5 years ago, we were at least a team that had some grit and determination and cohesion. But yeah, I don't know whether Villa were that good or we were just that bad. Maybe it's both. But yes.
The fact is we weren't competitive. And overall, if you're not competitive in a Premier League game, you're not getting any points. We could have at least gone there and been more competitive and come out with a draw or just lose narrowly. But, we've put ourselves in that position already. We're going to be lacking confidence, and we've got that heavy -5 goal difference. I think we're just going to have to take this one and try not to think about Everton now. It's very difficult. Try not to think about it tonight. And as Robbie said, come back on Thursday with fresh eyes. You're going back to Goodison. We're going to need the crowd there. And Jan, is it a must win? Wolves.
I think, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say this. Yes, every game we play for me is you've got to have a mentality of we must win this. Go out there. I don't care if it's scrappy and against Chelsea and we get a 1-0. The only games where I'd say, oh God, we're gonna, whatever here is City. We can hold them to a draw. We always bloody do. Well, anyway, On that note,
we have to sort it out. 2 more games, we have to get points. Because if we haven't got any points after Sheffield United and Wolves, I think there's going to be serious questions and serious actions at that point. So let's see.
Yes, it'll be cable ties around the goalposts again.
Okay.
Right. On that note, thank you everyone for joining us on the phone in. Thank you for watching us. Thank you for putting up with the moan lines and everything. Absolutely. Join us midweek for the post press conference preparations for Wolves, which is back to normal. It's a 3:00 kickoff on Saturday the 26th. So you've got 5 days of relative peace. Maybe. But yeah, on that note, thank you very much, Basil.
You're welcome.
Thank you to Ryan for coming on, Robbie for always the positivity. And as he says, Blues, go forward in the week, draw a line under it, start again. But yeah, thanks for your comments. Like and subscribe. Tell everyone that we are not always this miserable. It's only when we're this awful. So on that note, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.